Hey everybody, I'm Carter, and today I want to talk to you about what yoga is. I've been practicing yoga for over 30 years, and I've been teaching since 2005, and I wish somebody would have explained to me what yoga was in the simplest form, or in layman's terms, rather than kind of like through the scholarly Vedas and history of the yoga practice. And although that information is great, it's a little inaccessible for the yogis at the beginning of their practice or journeys. And so yoga is it started somewhere around 3000 BC, and I say somewhere around because yoga was taught a verbal teaching method, so it wasn't written down. It was basically a yoga master picking out a student where they thought that there was the capacity to understand the practice, and this went on for hundreds of years before they started writing things down. So the verbal practice and teaching of it is very old. And since then we have a lot of information that is written down. But what I want to start with is, what yoga is, the word, which can mean connection or unity. I mean, they call it's like yoking, right? It's a Sanskrit word that means yoking, which is connection. And so the question is always like, what are we connecting? We are trying to connect the body, the mind, and the spirit, right? So a lot of times that we feel like there is this separation between the world and us, and the reality is that there is this enormous amount of connection between all things, and we just have this dualistic mind. So our practice is this reunification of what we find is separate. So that's kind of like the general practice of yoga. Now, yoga is multiple parts. It's breathing, and it's asana, which is postures. And the reason for these two kind of interconnectiveness, and if you've ever practiced yoga, you hear us yoga teachers always talk about to breathe, breathe, breathe. And so now when I first started, it was like, well, of course I've been breathing my whole life, right? But it's not just the breath pattern, it's the awareness of the breath pattern. And I don't want to get too much into the pranayama practice of the method of breathing. And so what I'm just going to talk about is that you're just aware of the inhalation and the exhalation and the quality of it. So is it shallow? Is it deep? Is it long? What's the transition between the inhalation and exhalation? Are you pausing at the top or pausing at the bottom? And is the inhalation different than the exhalation? This is just awareness of how the breath moves in and out of the body. And the reason why we're aware of the breath is because the breath is like it's a little window of where we are physically, energetically, emotionally, maybe even spiritually. And you get a sense of this is like when you're angry or when you're upset or you're scared, the breath pattern changes. So we want to bring awareness to how the breath moves in and out of the body. And then we start to move through the asana, or the different postures. And then we still bring awareness to when we move in and out of the asana, how does the breath change? Because it gives us an indication that we may be doing too much, right? For a lot of us, we're stuck in the head, and we have an idea what yoga is, or have an idea what we need, but we're disconnected from the body. So the body may be like, that's too much. And the head is like saying, no, we're going to push on through. So when we are aware of how the breath pattern moves in and out of the body, we won't overdo it. Okay, so that's the breath in a general sense. I do want to talk about what yoga is not, right? Yoga is not a religion. And a lot of people have this idea that it's like some religious practice, and it can be very spiritual, but it can fit into any religious aspect that you're actually practicing. Even if you don't have a religious aspect, you can practice asana without a problem. So it's not a religion. Also, it's not an exercise. Let me say that again. It's not an exercise. We move physically, but I'm not using the asana to become stronger. I'm not using the asana even to become flexible. I mean, these things happen when we do our practice. We do get stronger. We do get more flexible. We do decompress, but that's not the point of the movements. The point of the movements or the asana is to allow us to feel sensation within body. So we start with this physical form. So if I do a forward fold, I'll feel it in the hamstrings or the glutes or the lower back. And the goal is not to fix those areas. The goal is to get a sense of where you're feeling it. And from there, the question becomes, can I expand the capacity of movement? Maybe the answer is no. So maybe you're just a little bit more rigid or tight in a certain part of the body, and that information's enough, because then this creates the foundation of where we are. And this is the whole practice of yoga, is how am I doing in this moment with this body? All right? And I talk about this body as in this physical form, this energetic form, this emotional form, and spiritual form. So these bodies are what we're trying to unite, connect, and understand where we are. So the asana moves us through different postures so I can feel different parts of the body. Why? Well, because different parts of the body hold different energetic patterns. So for me, when I'm stressed out, I feel it in the right side base of the neck. And if I don't take care of this, it kind of drains down into my lower back and my right hip. So I can start to feel these different points of my body where I'm holding stress and tension. Also, depending on what has happened in your body over the years, injury, right? So I've had surgery on this right shoulder, I've broken my ankle, and so I want to make sure I understand where I'm at today with my shoulder and where my flexibility is and where my strength is, so I'm staying within my capacity of where my body's at. So that's the reason for the asana. So we put all these things together, so we move, we feel, and then we breathe or find out where the breath pattern is. And then the big part of our practice is the question. What do I need today? Right? And that's a huge question. So the question becomes, and I always like to start with the physical form, the gross levels, the body. What do I need through my physical form? So do I need to go faster? Do I need to go slower? Do I need to go deeper? Do I need to do less? Right? So we ask the question as we move through the asana. I don't necessarily need the answer right away either, right? So it's like I breathe, feel, and move. This is why our yoga practice a lot of times is fairly long. Could be an hour, could be 90 minutes. And there's just a lot of repetition and a lot of movement. And so there is this intimacy that we find as we start to move. So we don't want to get too deep into it. I'm just breathing, I'm feeling, I'm moving. I'm asking, how am I doing? How does it feel? And there's always a little curiosity in our practice. So we're always kind of manipulating the asana until we find, oh, that's something going on there. So then we can go deeper as we go into the body, so I may feel like I'm limited in my hamstrings or shoulders or all the areas. And then I go a little bit deeper and I ask the question, how am I doing energetically? Right? For a lot of us, we're tired and we're maybe a little lethargic. And so we need to make sure that we understand where we're at in an energetic standpoint. So we ask the question as well as we move through the asana, and then we make the modification. So if I'm a little bit tired, I modify the asana so it just supports my energetic pattern where maybe I'm not moving so much. Then we go deeper. We call these koshas. These are layers within the physical body, energetic body, emotional body. And the emotional body is like, it's a little bit trickier, right? We talk about subtle body. So emotions can move through the body and stick when we have emotional trauma. And for a lot of us, we have a lot of emotional trauma because we've never taught how to process this kind of energetic pattern as well. So we may start to feel these parts of the body holding stress and tension. And so emotional trauma, meaning that I don't know how to express my feelings, or somebody says something and I don't know how to process that, it sticks in the body. So we move through the asana, we ask the question, how's my physical body doing? How's my energetic body? And then how's my emotional body? And then from there I ask my heart, like, is my heart doing okay? Am I taking care of myself? So as we go through these questions, an answer may show up. Oh yeah, I'm sad today. Okay, and that's okay, or whatever it may be. Then the next question is what can I do? And this is talking about right here and right now when we talk about on the mat. What can I do to support myself within these postures? And once again, it could be slowing down, it could be holding a posture longer, it could be manipulating the body in a way that makes me feel all right. And then if we go a little bit deeper, then we can go into that spiritual end. Am I connected and rooted to the things that are important to me? Right? And this could be religious, or it could just be spirit. It could be just feeling, right? So I'm not really too attached to any of the outcome of that. Is we just ask the question, how am I doing, right? So once we kind of get this overall wellness of movement and awareness and sensation and breath, we move in a way that kind of goes in and out of the asanas, and we make these modifications. So that's kind of an overall arching theme of how I move on my mat. All right, so the next part is, why do I do yoga? Why do I do this, right? Other than being connected to the body. Well, we call it practice. And the reason why we call it practice is that everything that you do on your mat has to have, or should be, related in some way, shape, or form of your life. So every movement that we make, every feeling that we have is a metaphor of what we're doing in our life. So when I take care of myself on my mat and I ask the questions, what do I need? I'm responsible for the outcome. Meaning that I'm responsible to regulate my practice in a way that makes me feel right. I don't expect the teacher to do it. I don't expect somebody else to tell me what I'm doing wrong. That's fine for alignment and all these different things. But it's a self-regulating practice. The metaphor is that we are in control of our life, or we should be in control of our life. So I make the decisions through my daily activities in a way that supports my need. Same process. My body, my energy, my emotions, my spirit, every aspect of it. So if I have a relationship that doesn't support me in my emotions, well then I make a decision. I modify in a way that supports my need. Right? So we call this radical self-care. So whatever you're doing on your mat is what you should be doing in your life, or vice versa. So whatever you need on your mat, you probably need in your life. So when you're moving through your asana, you can also think, what do I need in my day? How am I doing in my life? How's my relationship? How's my job? How's my eating habits? How's my sleeping habits? All these things relate to your body, your energy, your emotions, and your spirit. I always talk about these four bodies, right? We can talk about the intellectual aspect of it well, but we'll do that later. So with these parts of the yoga practice, practicing on mat, making sure that a lot of people say off the mat, the same thing that we do on the mat, we hopefully do off the mat. So we call this practicing yoga. And then when we get off the mat and we go into our life, that's the real yoga. So when we are in a situation in our life and we feel some sensation, we pause and breathe. Right? So on our mat, we do an asana, we do a posture that is really challenging. Right? So I don't push and I don't coast, but I find a spot where it may be a little bit challenging. I check in with the breath. I smooth out the breath pattern. If I can't smooth out the breath pattern, I do a little less in the asana, smooth out the breath pattern. Then there becomes a challenge, right? I kind of bring myself back to the body. I give myself another breath, find out where I'm at and ask the question, right? And so when we start to feel that friction, we get a sense of like, okay, let's pause, let's reflect, and let's ask the question. So how does that relate off the mat? Well, same thing. If I'm at the mall or I'm at a grocery store and something happens, someone takes my parking spot, somebody bumps into me, all of a sudden I feel friction, I feel stress, I feel tension, my breath pattern shortens, and I turn, and then my yoga practice kicks in. All right. Where do I feel it? What do I need? What's my response, right? So there's a space there. There's a difference between reaction, someone bumps into me and I push him back and I fight, right? That's reaction. Response is someone bumps into me, I give myself a moment and I breathe. Okay, excuse me, sorry, let's keep moving, and you make a modification in a way that supports your need, right? And then you go on. That's yoga, right? That's the practice. Now, do we always get there? No. That's why we practice often, right? So that's our yoga practice in a nice broad aspect. It can get very deep. It can get very complex. We can do different breathing patterns. We can do different asanas. Or we can do all these different things. But at the end of the day, it's the sensation that basically moves the practice. This is why you see people with these pretzel-like postures. The reason being that they're doing these really advanced practices is because their body's a little bit more flexible and they don't feel enough. Therefore, they go into the next variation, and then when they get to that spot where they're like, oh, wow, that's intense, okay, that's where I need to be, right? And for a lot of us, when we have tight hamstrings and tight shoulders, we're lucky that we don't have to go that far within the asana, right? So for me, practicing these many years, like, that's it, I feel it in the hamstring, right? And keep in mind that flexibility does not mean that you're a bad person, right? And it's not any, like, when you're flexible doesn't mean you're any closer to enlightenment. It means that your hamstrings are tight, okay? Maybe you're injured. Maybe your body doesn't have that mobility as someone else. It doesn't matter, right? Like, range of motion doesn't matter in asana. So I don't want you to be intimidated by these photos you see on Instagram or Facebook and these people doing handstands and, you know, doing these binds and all these things. They're just practicing in a way that supports their body. So it's not about what your asana looks like. It's not about flexibility, and I get this all the time. I don't do yoga because I'm not flexible. It has nothing to do with it, right? So allow yourself the ability to practice in a way that feels really good, right? And that works for your body. And if you're doing it correctly, you're going to practice until you're 90 or 100. And, you know, my practice when I was 25 is completely different than the practice than it is now. And it'll be completely different in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years. But I'm going to continue to move, feel, and breathe. And I'm going to ask my body, where am I at and what do I need? And that's the essence of our yoga. So make sure that your practice is a tool that works for you, right? You're not doing yoga for anyone else other than you, your body, your emotions, your energy, and your spirit. You're doing it for yourself. Excuse me. Cool? So try that. Don't do too much. Ease into each and every asana and make sure that there's no pain within the body. And when you're done that, you're like, that was perfect. That was exactly what I need. And if you do that, then you go to your mat more often, you practice more often, and you don't become better. What you become is you become more connected to your body, and you know exactly where you are. And from that point, you are doing yoga or yoking or finding the connection from the body to the mind to the spirit, and allowing yourself to be a little bit more, it expands your capacity for experience throughout your day. And I hope that works for you. If you have any questions or comments, leave it in the comment section below. Give me a thumbs up if you like this discussion, and subscribe to my channel. See you later. Peace.